hidden signs she's pretending in bed to hide her infidelity introduction there. S. An unspoken truth many couples avoid. Intimacy doesn't always reveal honesty. Sometimes it hides secrets. For men and women over 25, especially those who've been through long-term relationships, the difference between genuine intimacy and pretense can be the thin line between trust and betrayal. When a partner cheats, guilt rarely shows up in obvious ways. Instead, it often hides behind carefully orchestrated performances, one of the most private stages for that performance. The bedroom, in this deep exploration, will uncover 8 hidden signs she might be pretending in bed to cover her infidelity. This isn't about planting doubt in your heart, it's about equipping you with awareness. Understanding the psychology behind her actions, and most importantly, finding a way to respond with wisdom rather than anger. At Awaken Mindset, we believe knowledge is power, and your healing begins with clarity. 1. Over-exaggerated passion. When intimacy becomes strangely theatrical, it may not be a sign of heightened attraction. Instead, it could be an effort to mask emotional distance. She may suddenly act more passionate than ever, moaning too loudly, dramatizing every touch, or creating an intensity that feels staged rather than natural. Why does this happen? Psychologists suggest that guilt often drives people to overcompensate. If she's been unfaithful, she may fear you noticing the lack of real connections, so she tries to overwhelm you with a performance. What you can do, instead of judging instantly, notice whether this change is consistent or sporadic. Open, gentle communication outside the bedroom. Ask her what intimacy truly means to her now, and whether something deeper is missing too. Avoiding eye contact during intimacy. True intimacy is about more than physical closeness, it's about emotional connection. When someone avoids looking you in the eyes during lovemaking, it can signal disconnection. If this happens suddenly after years of comfort, it could be more than just fatigue or distraction. Why? Because eyes are windows to truth. If she's hiding guilt, eye contact may feel too vulnerable. Looking into your eyes could remind her of what she's concealing. What you can do, pay attention to patterns. Is she avoiding your gaze only during intimate moments? Or has it carried over into daily interactions? If the former, it may be linked to her feelings of shame or conflict. Invite a heart-to-heart talk about what she feels when she looks at you, beyond the physical act. 3. Sudden loss of affection outside the bedroom. Sometimes the performance in bed is meant to balance out the emotional withdrawal outside of it. If she showers you with exaggerated passion in private but seems distant in public or during daily life, this mismatch can be a warning sign. Cheating often causes emotional confusion. She may feel guilty, but instead of addressing it, she compartmentalizes her emotions, using physical passion as a shield while cutting off real affection elsewhere. What you can do: don't just focus on the bedroom. Ask yourself, how does she hold your hand in public? How does she smile at you across the dinner table? Affection outside of intimacy often tells the truer story. 4. Unusual requests or sudden changes in intimacy. Another subtle sign is when she introduces new moves, styles, or desires without explanation. While experimentation in relationships is healthy, sudden shifts without prior interest can be a red flag. It may mean she's learned something from someone else or is trying to cover her tracks by making intimacy feel new. This doesn't mean every new request signals infidelity, but the timing and context matter. If it coincides with other signs of emotional distance, it could be an attempt to disguise a betrayal. What you can do: approach this with curiosity, not accusation. Ask her about the inspiration behind her new ideas. She shares openly, it may be growth. She becomes defensive or vague. Pay attention to the silence between her words. 5. Over-focusing on your satisfaction. Ironically, one of the strongest hidden signs is when she suddenly becomes overly concerned about pleasing you, most to the point of obsession. At first, this may feel flattering, but often it's guilt-driven. She may hope that by focusing entirely on your pleasure, you won't notice her emotional absence. Why? Because infidelity often leaves the unfaithful partner feeling indebted. By ensuring your satisfaction, she tries to balance the emotional scales. What you can do, notice the quality of her presence, not just the quantity of her effort. Ask yourself, is she truly connected, or is she performing service out of obligation? Real intimacy thrives on mutual presence, not guilt-driven compensation. 6. Quick endings and sudden disinterest in. Other sign is when intimacy feels rushed. If she suddenly wants encounters to end quickly, or shows little interest in lingering closeness afterward, it may be because her mind and emotions are elsewhere. This is particularly true if she avoids intimacy, bonding moments like cuddling, pillow talk, or even simple gestures of affection. The distance becomes evident not in the act itself, but in the silence after. What you can do, pay attention to transitions. Ask yourself, is she rushing away because she's tired, or because she's uncomfortable with the emotional weight of staying close? Gentle questions outside the bedroom may help reveal the truth. 7. Decreased emotional vulnerability. Real intimacy is not just physical, lights the courage to be vulnerable. If she's pretending, she may avoid deeper vulnerability. You might notice she rarely opens up about her feelings, her fears, or her dreams anymore. Instead, she may use the physical act as a mask to keep you from probing deeper. Why? Because sharing emotions makes it harder to hide betrayal. Emotional walls are easier to maintain than emotional honesty when infidelity is involved. What you can do, create a safe space for emotional sharing. Instead of focusing only on what happens in bed, focus on your conversations outside it. Absence of vulnerability often reveals more than the presence of performance. 8. Instinctive gut feeling. Finally, the most overlooked sign is your own intuition. Human beings have an uncanny ability to sense when something is off. If intimacy feels rehearsed, distant, or hollow, your instincts may be picking up signals your rational mind tries to dismiss. Trusting your gut doesn't mean jumping to accusations. It means giving yourself permission to recognize discomfort and investigate gently. Sometimes the subconscious sees truths long before the conscious mind does. What you can do: journal your feelings after intimate encounters. Note patterns. This helps separate instinct from paranoia. If discomfort repeats consistently, it may be time for an honest, vulnerable conversation. Understanding the psychology behind pretending in bed is not just about physical performance. It's about psychological defense mechanisms. For many, guilt becomes unbearable. To cope, they overcompensate, redirect attention, or build masks. It's less about deceiving you and more about protecting themselves from their own shame. Understanding this psychology doesn't excuse infidelity, but it does explain why the signs are so subtle. Recognizing them allows you to approach the situation with empathy instead of explosive anger. And in relationships, empathy opens the door to either healing together or finding the strength to walk away. Practical steps to take. What should you do if you notice these signs? Here are steps to apply at home. Pause before confronting. Don't let suspicion alone guide your actions. Collect observations first. Open a safe dialogue. Use "I feel" statements instead of "you did" accusations. For example, "I feel distant from you lately, and I want to understand why." Look beyond the bedroom. True intimacy is holistic. Pay attention to how she shows love outside the physical act. Seek counseling if needed. Sometimes a third party can help navigate the emotional storm. Decide with clarity whether you rebuild trust or walk away. Let your choice come from wisdom, not impulse. The bigger picture relationships are fragile ecosystems built on trust. When infidelity enters the picture, It disturbs every layer, emotional, psychological, and physical. But here's the deeper truth. Noticing these signs isn't just about uncovering betrayal. It's about reclaiming your own emotional awareness.com sometimes. These signs may not point to cheating at all. They may simply reveal emotional distance, stress, or personal struggles. That's why it's crucial not to assume, but to listen, observe, and communicate. The ultimate goal is not just to expose dishonesty, but to awaken to the deeper dynamics of your relationship and to yourself. Conclusion: awakening through awareness. You've resonated with any of these hidden signs. Remember this: awareness is the first step toward healing. Whether she's truly pretending to cover infidelity or simply struggling with disconnection, your role is to approach the truth with strength and compassion at the end of the day. Intimacy is not just about physical closeness, it's about emotional honesty. And if honesty is missing, no amount of performance can fill that void. You deserve real love. You deserve authenticity. And most importantly, you deserve peace of mind. If this message touched you, I invite you to support the Awaken Mindset channel. Subscribe, share, and join our community where we explore the deepest truths about relationships, psychology, and the human heart. Together, let's awaken clarity, courage, and emotional freedom.